What's going on, everybody? Welcome in to Luttie's Look Back, episode 18. We've got a full lineup of college hoops to get to in today's show. And we'll, of course, start how we have to start. A rough weekend for the Hogs. They put up a relatively good performance, but fall against number 8 Florida, 71-63. And we'll start with my three big things. And this is a tough game to talk about. There was a lot of issues in this game for the Razorbacks, and it starts more as a broad topic in talking about the offense. The offense was a big issue. I feel like I'm talking about football because offense versus defense, but it really is. It's almost like two different teams are playing out there because the offense, Arkansas unable to do things efficiently on the offensive end of the court versus on the defensive end, they were doing things well. They were getting steals, they were getting blocks. They only held a really good Florida team to 71 points. There were things that were good in this game, but I want to start with the thing that was bad, and that was the offense. 30% from field goal range, 19% from beyond the arc. You're not going to win many games when you only make a couple of three-pointers and when you shoot 30% in a game. What you want to see is that number being mid-40s at the very least, 40 at the least, I would say. Anytime you're in the 30s, that's not a good thing, the 30s as far as field goal percentage. And this team, they got to start playing like that thing I just called them, a team, because they have a lot of individual efforts. They have a lot of individual players that are really good, but this team just hasn't come together yet. We've seen glimpses of it, but at least in SEC play, we haven't seen a full 40 minutes of, hey, we're going to play all together as a team. We're going to have great players all around, and we're going to win a basketball game. That hasn't happened. They haven't won an SEC game. They're 0-3. 0-3 in the SEC. And so it's very disappointing, and it's because of the offense, the offensive issues. And it's weird because in the non-conference, towards the end of the non-conference season, Arkansas's specialty was field goal percentage. They were in like the mid-50s as far as the season looks for the non-conference. And now all of a sudden they enter conference play, and yes, are they playing much better teams? This is correct. That is a true statement. But that doesn't mean they wide open threes you should be making. Contested layups you should be making. And they're missing those now. So I don't know if it's in their head. I don't know what's going on with this team. But as far as the offensive side of the ball, it's not good. Defense, if you want to look just back at the two games Arkansas played, which of course they lost to Ole Miss on Wednesday, I believe it was, and then lost to Florida on Saturday. If you want to look at both of those games, much better defensive effort in Saturday's game. Again, I know they lost, but I want to try to look at some positives. The defense was surprisingly good. And the person that I look at, maybe the most for defense, Jonas Aidoo is one of them. He played physical. He played probably his best game, one of his better games against Florida on Saturday. The first two SEC games, I don't like that Jonas Aidoo. I like the Jonas Aidoo that played against Florida. If he can continually get better, Arkansas has a big man presence, higher percentage shots when you got Jonas Aidoo down low, dunking it. A dunk is a very high percentage shot. Arkansas was 100% on the dunks attempted. Maybe they might have missed one. There was maybe an alley-oop that they missed. But on dunks, high percentage because you're right there. You're so close. You're going to dunk it. So that's why I like Jonas Aidoo. Again, talking about the defensive side of the ball, Aidoo was good. He was good on both sides, too, on the offensive side as well. Adu Thiero is another guy who on Wednesday in their loss to Ole Miss, he couldn't keep a guy in front of him, and then there was no help defense. The team isn't playing like a team. They're playing like individuals, and some of the individuals aren't playing good enough, especially on the defensive side of the ball. Adu Thiero didn't play good on the defensive side of the ball on Wednesday. He played so much better on Saturday. The defense was good. He was able to keep guys in front of him. There was help defense. There was active hands. Those first 5-10 minutes was awesome. Defense was great, and that led to offense. That led to fast break points. And then something just happened the last 25 minutes of the game. You had a 5-minute stretch where it was really good. And somewhere kind of towards the end of the second half, you had that 5-10-minute stretch to begin the game. And then all the other times that Arkansas played in this game, it was bad. It was bad, which is just surprising because they have such good players, and they have a guy that should be one of the best college basketball coaches of all time that I'm now starting to doubt. But that gets into something way deeper than what I want to talk about. I want to talk about this game, and I guess I want to talk about with my final point is the question most fans are asking themselves right now. Is it time to panic? I'm saying no. I'm saying no, not yet. There will be a time to panic if Arkansas loses 3 more games in a row and start out SEC play 0-6, which probably has never happened, or if it's happened, it's only a few times scattered out throughout Arkansas Razorback college basketball history. It's pretty rare also for Coach Cal to start at 0-3 in conference play. It's only happened one time in his head coaching career. He's been coaching for like 40 years. Only one time, and that was in his very first season with Memphis? No, UMass, I believe. He coached at both of them. But Coach Cal, I got a lot of things to say. I don't know what I have to say about him. I don't know what I have to say. I don't have my thoughts fully gathered on how I feel about Coach Cal yet. The fan base, I think you guys feel the same way as me. You like this guy. You hated this guy at first because he was at Kentucky and he was the enemy. Now he's on our side and he's our hero and he's supposed to lead us back to the promised land. And he promised us no promises, basically. In all of his press conferences that he had in the non-conference season or in the preseason, he was like, I don't have a magic wand. Isn't it going to be perfect team? This is a brand new team, a brand new schedule. He preached that. So he tried to keep the fans' expectations low, but the expectation was very high because he's Coach Cal. He does have a magic wand. And so it is disappointing where Arkansas is at right now. That's the word I would use, is disappointing. But in a panic, I'm not ready to panic yet. It's 3 games. It's a week and a half of play that has been bad for Arkansas for the most part. There's so much time left to play. It's weird to compare them to Muss, but I'm going to do that a little bit because it's kind of feeling like the Eric Musselman years at Arkansas, where they don't look good to begin conference play. They don't look good throughout non-conference at times, and then they just do something in March. They win a couple games, they make it to the Sweet 16. Maybe that happens again. Maybe not. We'll see. But is it time to panic? I'm saying not yet. So those are some of my thoughts. This is how Coach Cal began and ended his press conference after the game on Saturday. Take a listen.
Top 10 team. Hold them to 39% from the floor, 28% from the 3. Out-rebound us by 10. A bunch of those were at the end of the game, offensive rebounds. We miss a bunch of free throws, miss a bunch of layups, and we still have a chance, and then we start missing free throws. So I got to look and say, are we playing the right people? Are we playing the right way? We're getting shots. We're getting layups. We got to the free throw line. We did all the stuff we're trying to do. And then the other thing is there was emotion showed in that game in one play. What was it? He dunks it, goes to the crowd, goes crazy. And why isn't that us? Why aren't you absolutely excited about playing? I think part of it is if someone doesn't play well, they can't get out of their own self's way. But you don't have to play great. You don't even have to play good. Just defend, dive on the floor, talk, be a great teammate, chest bump, get everybody going, and you'll bounce out of that. We haven't learned that yet. This isn't easy for our fans, for our team, for our coaches, for me. It is what it is. Let's go on to the next one, get this thing going. Thanks.
All right, so people may have seen I tweeted out those last 10 seconds of his press conference just to be like, hey, this is how he ended it. I think there's 2 sides to look at it. One is that a little worried if you're a Hog fan, him just to get up and leave at a press conference, be like, we're fine. We'll move on to the next one. It's fine. The other part of me is like, I trust John Calipari, right? He's been doing this for long enough. He doesn't have to say the right thing to get fans to trust him or to get the media to trust him. He just has to say the right thing to the locker room and to the players. So there's 2 sides of it that I look at the way he ended that. And it was kind of cool. The tweet that I put out got like 500,000 views because kind of Kentucky Twitter picked it up, Arkansas Twitter picked it up, and the whole debate and rivalry now between Kentucky and Arkansas is kind of insane, and that's why that tweet kind of blew up. I think because Kentucky fans were like, well, we told you. We didn't want him anymore, so he was y'all's problem, and this is This is what you're dealing with now. We told you so. Basically, that's how it went. But quickly back to this game, he mentioned it. Not a lot of energy from this team. They played competitively. They played hard. But there was only one play, as Coach Cal mentioned in the middle of that press conference sound right there, one play where I felt like, oh, this guy's going to get the crowd hyped up. And it was DJ Wagner, his left-hand slam, that cut the deficit to 2 or 3 points with like 5 minutes left. And I just want to see more players like DJ Wagner, and even him to an extent, get the crowd hyped up. Like, look at the crowd and be like, let's go, let's go. Like, there was a great crowd there on Saturday. I want to see those guys using the crowd to their advantage, because the beautiful thing is about Arkansas fan base and Arkansas Nation is we have some of the best fans and worst fans. Probably. It's how all fan bases are. You have both sides. Some of the best and some of the worst in the country. And I think the best is those passionate, loud fans. Bud Walton Arena can get so loud and so intense and ready to go and pumped up, but it helps a lot more when you have the players that are feeding off that energy, and also the players that are hyping the fan up, and vice versa. So I think there needs to be a better relationship between the fan and the players. I get that it's more of a professional organization now, but I kind of miss the times when you have a guy coming off the bench, and I can't think of a player off the top of my head. Devo Davis would always get me hyped up. Maybe he didn't motion the crowd to like get hyped up, but he would get you hyped up when you watched him. He played with that type of effort. I want guys like that. A DJ Wagner, a Billy Richmond can be that type of guy as well. So those are about all my thoughts on Arkansas basketball. I have more notes. I have a lot of notes that I didn't even use, but that's all my talk for Razorback men's basketball. Let's go to the women's side of things for the Hogs. Arkansas, again, not off to the best of starts on the women's side of basketball. They fall yesterday 93-63 to number 16 Tennessee. The first thing I want to mention is Thursday's game. Give credit to Arkansas. They went on the road in the SEC and got a win, and that's something that should be applauded. So congrats to Coach Neighbors on getting his first SEC win of the season, first SEC win in a while as Arkansas takes down Auburn. But in this game, Arkansas kept it close for a little bit. It was back and forth. Arkansas, kind of the flip side for the men's team, they couldn't get a stop defensively. They were doing all they wanted on the offensive end. Izzy Higginbottom was doing pretty good. She was getting Kiki Smith, Carly Keats. They were making some three-pointers. But on defensive end, they couldn't hold their own, and that was where they struggled. Again, the bright spot is Higginbottom. I think she's top 5 in the nation now in points per game. What she's doing is really impressive. Probably top 3 greatest women's basketball players in Arkansas Razorback history type of impressive. That's what I think. Again, only a few games into conference play, so we'll see if she can keep those numbers up. And it's funny because she scored 26 points in this game, and, I watched most of the game. I don't even feel like she played that good. She had 10 points, I think, at halftime, and then, she just keeps shooting. And she gets to the free throw line. She does such a good job of getting to the free throw line and making plays. What I want to see, if I have one critique of her, it's getting the ball to her teammates a little bit more, getting some confidence in her teammates. Because they have some decent players. Kiki Smith and Carly Keats, as I mentioned, they can shoot the ball, but they struggle when they only shoot the ball a few times a game. They need to get in a rhythm. So kind of like the men's team, they need to start playing together better as a team. They have so many new parts, got to start playing together better as a team. So let's hear from Coach Mike Neighbors, and he talked about after the game the fact that his team, they're playing maybe better than their record or even the stats show. Here's what he had to say about that.
Sometimes it's not showing up on the final scoreboard, and I think if you just are lazy and just look at a box score at the end, it's easy to not have the context that you need of where it was at with whatever time left in the game. And then dissect it and say, we make a mistake, they lay it in, we make another mistake, they hit a 3, they make a mistake, it compounds. And I think that's the one thing that we had no chance to simulate. But I think it's vitally important that we keep telling our kids what's to come. That's where I think that Auburn game helped us so much, because they did see an improvement in a game when we have a better chance to win it. Again, be honest about it. We'll have a better chance to win almost every game we play the rest of the way out. I mean, there's still some teams at the top, but that's 3 of the top 4 or 5. I don't care who you ask. We've played 3 of the top 4 or 5 already.
Yeah, just like the men's team, I'm not panicking yet. not panicking on this women's basketball team. They played 3 of the top 5 or 6 teams in their conference. Again, they lost all of them by 30 plus, so that's not good. But they beat Auburn, and they showed some signs of having a good team at parts throughout these games, which they've lost by 30 plus, as Coach Neighbors mentioned there. So again, not panicking on this team, not panicking on the men's team either. That is our Razorback basketball talk. Take a deep breath. Stay with us because we got a lot more to go. Not Razorbacks, but we'll move on to Arkansas State now. The Red Wolves, the men, they go on the road and they come back to beat Troy 84-78. Quite the win for the Red Wolves. You're going to see a trend over the next few games that I talk about. We're going to talk about Arkansas State, Little Rock, and UCA, both men's and women's sides. A lot of comeback victories. A lot of, I like looking at, ESPN and what their percentage of their win percentage is at certain points of the game. With 6 minutes left to go in the game, Troy, who Arkansas State beat, had an 85% chance to win. They were up by 7. Arkansas State mounts a comeback and gets the win. Taron Todd, he's been the go-to player this year as far as he's leading them in points. He had 21 points. But if you really watch this game and if you look closer at the stats, you're going to see that Joseph Pinion scored 17 of his 17 points in the second half. Back-to-back three-pointers with about 30 seconds, about a minute left and about 30 seconds left in the game to tie the game and then eventually give them the lead. Arkansas Razorbacks probably missed Joseph Pinion. He's hot and cold sometimes, but he got hot in this game, and that's what prevailed the Red Wolves over Troy. So really good performance out of Pinion, 5 for 9 from beyond the arc. Arkansas State takes down Troy 84-78. We'll move on to the women's side of the Red Wolves. They also won over the weekend in similar fashion. Again, coming back to take down, they didn't take down Troy, it was Louisiana Monroe, 75-70. That is 4 in a row now for the A-State women. They are 4-1 in conference play in the Sun Belt, so a good start to conference play for them. A lot of these women's basketball teams in our area having good starts to conference play, maybe not a good non-conference, but the start to conference play has been really good. Again, 4-1. Again, you want to look at percentages, the ESPN percentage for Louisiana Monroe with about, towards the end of the third quarter, ULM had a 91% chance to win. So a 9% chance to win for A-State starting the fourth quarter, essentially. They come back to win. They went on a quick run, I think, at some point in the fourth quarter and ended up winning this game. Zion Shannon was the go-to scorer for A-State in this game with 24 points, 6 3-pointers, so that's really impressive for Shannon doing that. Chrislyn Rose, not as good. She struggled a little bit. We've seen that a few times this season with her struggles, just 7 points. But she did what she needed to do from the free throw line, 5 of 5 from the free throw line. And then Kiana Morgan, who I've talked about in the past few weeks, only 10 points, but still a good showing for her and a good showing for A-State to move to 4-1 with a win over Louisiana Monroe. So that's Arkansas State talk. We'll now go to Little Rock. We'll start on the men's side. Yesterday, they took down Southern Indiana 78-55. This one not a comeback, but it was a game in which Little Rock was really close with Southern Indiana. About at the 10-minute part of this game, it was a tie ball game. So it was a tight game, and then that's kind of when Little Rock did what they should have done most of the game because they're better than this USI team. They went on a 32-12 run in the last 10 minutes to win the game. Ante Bellion, again, had a really good game inside. For your big man to stuff the stat sheet like you see behind me, 24 points, 6 boards, 3 assists, 3 steals. For your big man to do that, and I think he had a block as well, that's really impressive. And they need Bellion, guys like him, to step up and have really good games because they're still so banged up. They still have, Creed Williamson, KK Robinson. Isaiah Lewis did play. There's another guard who's escaping my mind, but they got a couple guys who are still out. They're playing, I think, just 2 guys off the bench in this game. They need those guys to get healthy. But in the meantime, for them to win by 20 against a USI team, that gives me confidence in this team. That gives me confidence in Bellion because he had a good games. Gives me confidence in Mwani Wilkinson, 20 points, couple of 3-pointers. He started out, he scored 10 of Little Rock's first 12 or 13 points. That was a good start for Little Rock, and they did what they're supposed to do and got the win. That is a men's team. On the women's team, they didn't do what they were supposed to do. They were supposed to lose to this game. They weren't the better team against USI, but the Trojans, they came back to win it in overtime. Again, we'll talk about the comebacks, talk about the percentage. They had a 2% chance to win with 3 minutes left in this game. Now, that's the craziest out of all these funny percentages that I've talked about. And they go on to get the win in overtime, 89-83 over Southern Indiana. Faith Lee, again, the go-to scorer for this Trojans team, was electric, 27 points, only 1 3-pointer. So she has the ability to make 3-pointers, but she's doing it inside as well. And then when she fouled out, it was Jordan Holman, who had 19 points, 2 very clutch 3-pointers at the end of the fourth quarter, and then to start overtime that eventually propelled Little Rock to win this game. Shug Williams, the guard, was very clutch. We talked to her after the game. She understands that she got to work, and she and her guards have to work on pressure because USI pressed them this entire game, and they really struggled. They had 30 turnovers, somewhere around that number. So they struggled in that area of the game. And so I think if opposing teams are going to be watching film, they're going to know we got to press this Little Rock team. That's how you beat them. But Little Rock did win this game, so that is a good sign. Again, Shug Williams, she played good. Maybe not as much for her ball handling skills at times, but because of her clutch free throws in overtime, they're really clutch. And speaking of clutch, another player, Anne-Marie Batista, she hasn't played much this season. She's been dealing with some injuries. She came off the bench. I didn't see her play. I was watching this game, then got there towards the end of the third quarter. I don't think she played the entire fourth quarter. She gets subbed in overtime because Faith Lee fouls out. She camps out in the corner. I think it was Holman that got her the ball with about 30 seconds left. Little Rock only up by 1 or 2. She drains a 2-pointer. It was a really long 2-pointer. Probably should have been a 3-pointer. So really impressive for Anne-Marie Batista, working on that name to make that big shot to give Little Rock the win. That was kind of the nail in the coffin that gave them the win. So Little Rock now 5-1 in OVC play. There's one team above them. I can't remember exactly which team it is, but one team above them in the OVC. But again, Trojans looking really good. So those are some of my thoughts. We did get to talk to first-year head coach Steve Weedor after the game, and here's what he had to say.
That was a good basketball game. I think 2 good teams playing. Could have went either way. Just really proud of my team of competing today. They had several opportunities to fold their tent a couple of times, when things wasn't going their way, and we stayed in there and battled and kept making play after play when we needed to, and just really proud of the way that they finished off the game and got the win today.
Again, good to see Steve Weedor and company are doing well for Little Rock. So nice win for them, 5-1 to start OVC play once again. We'll finish up the show. We got a few more things after this, but we'll finish up our teams at least with Central Arkansas talking about UCA. We'll start on the men's side. And this is a game in which it was a close first half, and then UCA just kind of fell behind in the second half, lost to Florida Gulf Coast 77-71. Give them credit. They weren't supposed to compete with FGCU in this game, and they did for a lot of the first half. And the second half, you kind of saw what was probably supposed to happen with the Eagles jumping ahead there and getting the win. I will give a shout to Elias Cato, 29 points. I believe, I know it's a season high. I think it is also a career high. So really impressive what the big men has been able to do inside, but also from beyond the arc. I think he made 5 3-pointers, somewhere around that mark for the Bears. Only 10 points for Lane Taylor. You're going to have those days when you're a freshman, and you're probably, again, I've said this last week, probably one of the top 30 freshmen in the country. He's playing in Conway, Arkansas, and his name is Lane Taylor. Now, he only had 10 points in this game. Give credit to the Eagles and what they were able to do to shut down Mr. Taylor. But this guy has a really bright future, and this team has a bright future. They got so many young guys. They got a first-year head coach in John Schulman. They're just not quite there yet. And we've seen that. I talked about that with a couple of our teams in our area, like the Razorbacks. They're not quite there yet. They're not playing as a team. This is a different issue. They're young, and they're inexperienced, and they're still trying to figure out what it's like to play college basketball. Lane Taylor has taken on that challenge really well. Some of the other guys are a little bit slower in developing, and that's okay. You're a young guy. You're going to develop in a league like this in the ASUN to be able to play better. That is a look at the men's team and how they fared over the weekend. The women's basketball team, the Sugar Bears, they do get the win. Took down Queens yesterday 66-57. They were big favorites in this one. It was a little too close for comfort for a while, and then they had a little 9-0 run probably about midway through the fourth quarter to get the win. Kinley Fisher leading the way with 18 points. Jade Upshaw only had 12 points, but I want to give a shout out to her because on Wednesday night in their win at home against Lipscomb, she had 31 points. So a really good night for Upshaw. She's been the go-to player this year. She didn't lead them in scoring for this game, but she has been the go-to player. The Sugar Bears are now 3-1 in the ASUN. So good looking out for the Sugar Bears. We'll continue to monitor them and see how they do the rest of this season. That is all the basketball talk that I have in air in my lungs. We'll move on to football now. There's only one game over the weekend, and that was in the wild card. I guess there was all wild card games, Nick, but the Texans were our closest team in the area, so I did want to give them a shout out. They took down the Chargers 32-12. CJ Stroud was pretty good for them along with Mixon, but it was a Houston defense that really stepped up big against Justin Herbert, picking him off 4 times. I think one of them might have gone for a touchdown as well. So really good performance for Texans. They now move on to the next round in the NFL playoffs. Let's end my show how we always do with the Lutties look ahead for the men's basketball team. Arkansas 0-3 in the SEC, also facing a similar foe in the LSU Tigers, who are also 0-3. This one in Baton Rouge. Tip-off Tuesday at 8 o'clock on the SEC Network. Arkansas, there's a lot of games coming up that are going to be must-wins. Just feels like you need to get 1 or 2 of these, especially against opponents that aren't that good. Arkansas has lost opponents that are really good this year. This is an LSU team that Arkansas is better than, and they should get the win. So that's it. That's my show. Thanks for watching Lutties Look Back. I'm exhausted. A lot of college basketball that we got to today. Thank you so much for watching. As always, you can follow me on Facebook at Nick Luttie TV or on Twitter /X Nick Luttie. That's how you can keep up with us, keep up with me there. And then we've got THV11 on both of those platforms and so much more as well. Thank you so much for watching Lutties Look Back episode 18. We'll see you next week.